I'm back.
What's up, Tampa Bay? I hope everybody's staying focused, avoiding the static, and I hope you're ready for some overtime magic. I'm Chuck Turgeon, the most hype man you will meet on the street, here to get you in the know about tonight's show. On this episode, we are in overtime, when Michael shows you never before seen content from our extended guest interviews with guests like Big O, Belinda Womack, guests from our art and entertainment show, guests from our Summer Fun in the Sun show, and much more. And now, for your host, the always magical Michael Clayton!
I said stop! Stop! What you doing? You saw how I snapped that music off?
Listen, welcome back to Michael Clayton Live. I remember the moment when I met my wife for the first time. I mean, we were at a restaurant. Well, a restaurant / nightclub. No chicken wings, just drinks. And I remember telling her that night when I walked into her car, I kissed her on her forehead. I said, baby, you gonna be my wife. I mean, I was bold, but I knew what I wanted. You know, mind you, I didn't know much of anything about her except for the fact that she was drop dead gorgeous, she was smart, and she liked lollipops. She was licking on a lollipop all night. I mean, I'm young. She had me hooked. I'm in love. Day one, love at first sight. So we started dating for a few months, and it was about time for me to introduce her to my friends. So my buddy comes to Miami, where Tina was in medical school, and she was cooking for the first time for me. So my best friend was big guy, 350 pounds big. She made a big old pot of stew. I mean, it was smelling so good. I was like, man, I knew this meal was gonna seal the deal. Get the okay from my best friend. She can cook, she's beautiful, man. You good to go, bruh. I mean, my friend takes a big old bite, 350-pound bite. He glitches for a minute. He's chewing like he's looking for something to happen. He leans over to me and he says, don't do it, don't do it. Whisper yells at me, I'm like, yeah, you. Shh. I mean, she ain't seasoned the meat. What a saw that, bro? I was like, that joker didn't even come to my wedding. That stew was so bad. Now, mind you, out of the 15 years I've been married, that one meal has been the only meal that wasn't satisfied. And if she wasn't so beautiful, she might have lost me, y'all. She probably said, I wish I would have lost your butt before we tied that knot. Listen, but to think, our 4 beautiful kids might not be here due to some unsalted meat. What I'm trying to tell you, ladies and fellas, is we've got to learn how to work the seasoning for a reasoning. Your kids' lives might depend on it. So, if you missed last week's show, then you need to go to our Michael Clayton Live YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and share, and be sure to watch all of the delicious recipes we did at Aprons Cooking School at Publix in Citrus Park. Now, let's recap some great moments from Michael Clayton Live. It's the Overtime Show.
Benefits of dental implants are numerous. They give patients the confidence that they've been missing for years, and they are designed to last a lifetime.
I did look at other places, but I tell you, the minute I walked into this place, I felt calm. Meeting Dr. July, she just immediately, I felt comfortable with her. She asked questions. For me to be excited about going to the dentist is an amazing feeling in itself.
I've been blessed to have some great guests on Michael Clayton Live for our first 11 shows, and because we only have about 5 to 6 minutes to share with our guests in each episode, we decided to keep the cameras rolling because so often I have a lot more questions for my guests. Now, it is what we refer to as the Michael Clayton Live Overtime Show. Now, you can see these bonus interviews on our YouTube channel at Michael Clayton Live, but I decided it would be so much fun to bring you some of these questions to our viewers so you can see why you need to also check us out on YouTube. Let's start with my good friend, Big O, Orestes Destrada from Sun Sports, who covers the pre and post game show for the Tampa Bay Rays. So one last question. You know, you've lived in Japan. You know all about their culture. They're battling, or they haven't battled coronavirus like we have. We've had it bad. And I think it's due to their culture. You can speak to how they're doing so well over there.
MC, I mean, their culture's one of the reasons that I think that they did so well. They did their homework. I mean, they're right next to China, but they did their homework and they listen very well. And when you talk about a country that as a whole, if they're told, remember, this country survived not one, but two cities being bombed by us, unfortunately, need be in World War II. So they listen, and I've seen it myself. The funniest thing I got to tell you that really kind of explains why they survived COVID and why they're online without having to close down dramatically. So I do clinics over there, and every time I do clinics over here with 40 kids, I always still, to this day, okay, let's make a line over here. Okay, Johnny, can you, let's get a line. This is one line. Japan, I go, Ichuni, kudasai, onegaishimasu. Boom. They're like a line. I see one kid. I think because they're like, hi, wakarimashita. And I'm like, man. So they are very much about protocol and about their country. Not saying that we're not. It's just that I think we're a little ADHD over here, and they hone it in, and they bow instead of hug anyway.
They've been
practicing, and they drink a lot of tea, and they're wonderful people, and I consider myself part Japanese from my time over there.
Give me something in Japanese to the camera.
はい、私はオレデスラエ選手です。本当に気をつけてね、コロナウイルスね、本当に大変でしょ。でも、私は応援してください。ありがとうございます。どうも。
Now, aren't you glad we put subtitles on the screen? Because I had no idea what Big O was talking about. All I know is konnichiwa. We also had some business leaders join us to talk about how Tampa Bay area businesses are adapting to COVID. Kelly Flannery from the South Tampa Chamber of Commerce and Linda Olson from the Tampa Bay Wave had some great advice. When we speak about tech, I feel that, and I'm not a tech guy, but I do know that everybody has their own lane. I also recognize that in successful businesses, you usually don't start by yourself, and you kind of connect. Would you encourage entrepreneurs to try to find like-minded people to kind of join, opposed to kind of creating their own niche? How has that experience been for you? Is it positive to utilize resources and combine companies to achieve the ultimate goal?
I would go as far as say it's critical. I've never seen anyone really be a self-made success without really having help along the way, right? And it's actually great when you can collaborate with other entrepreneurs, even if they're not other tech entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter, because everybody out there, when I say tech entrepreneur, I'm really saying entrepreneurs. And when I say entrepreneurs, I'm really talking about people who are solving problems, right? And sometimes you can find ways to solve problems that are affecting lots of people and build a business on top of that. But when you build a community, in a lot of ways, that's what Tampa Bay Wave was trying to do first, was build a community for entrepreneurs where you can't be in the game without wanting to help others. We always kind of talk about it like stepping on rakes. Once you step on a rake, you want to tell everybody where that rake is so they don't step on it too, right? So being around like-minded, supportive people, I think, is critical for not just increasing your odds of success, but accelerating your path to get there.
Kelly, the pandemic has kind of forced businesses to be creative and be innovative. What is your comment to those businesses who've had to kind of change their infrastructure to kind of function at this time during the height of the pandemic?
We've seen some incredible things happen in the community, restaurants that have begun doing delivery and takeout, stores doing personal shopping or virtual shopping opportunities, breweries and distilleries making hand sanitizer, a local men's apparel company now making face masks. So it's been really exciting to see how businesses have taken this time to innovate, to adapt their business to move forward. And my advice for business owners is to keep doing it. Even once you return to your normal business practices, keep doing those innovative things. I call it the convenience factor or the Amazon effect. So I encourage small business owners to keep making things convenient and easy for consumers, especially during this time of transition. And I think that we're going to come out on the other side of this a much stronger business community. It's one of the silver linings coming out of this pandemic.
When we come back, we'll see what more insight our guests had on our arts and entertainment themed show. Stay tuned.
Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and to see expanded interviews, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Michael Clayton Live.
Roll over. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
In our art and entertainment show, we were joined by a fine artist, Dean Mitchell, Strass Center board member David Scher, and Film Tampa Bay executive director Tyler Martinolich. Let's check out some of my overtime show and conversations with them. I heard you speaking, and I kind of saved a very special question because I didn't want to overstep my boundaries. But as I hear you speak, I know the spiritual components in your life are very important. So I kind of feel comfortable asking this question. And as a black artist, you mentioned that there were some hurdles to get over. You mentioned that, you had to kind of play the game and, they wouldn't buy your work out of your facility, so you had to go to other museums to kind of work the system, so to speak. Would you say that it was, and I don't want to put you in this is the first thing I thought about. Would you say that you had to figure it out, or would you say that God ordered the pieces and it just kind of fell into place just how it was supposed to?
You know what? I was raised that way, and it's very interesting. There's always been sort of a soft voice that has always kind of guided me through troubled waters. Yeah. And so, because some of this, there's something deep going on here. And so money was never the driving force. And I tell people this all the time because once money get into it, it gets a little funny because my work is for sale, but my soul isn't. Yes. And so whatever I paint, it has to come from a deep place because I think that God moves through images. And if they are speaking to a deeper part of our sense of self, they're going to resonate with everybody. And technique, even I've seen paintings that are flawlessly, technically beautifully, but sometimes it is the struggle within the paint that pulls people into that deeper place. And that's something you can't give anybody.
Yes.
You can't give that.
Absolutely. For someone who's young, not a lot of money, what would be your advice to kind of taking that first step in getting into film creation and theater?
Wow, that's a tough question.
And I ask because I've met so many people who love it. I've met so many people who make movies off of cell phones and, they do all of these things. Would you say that that is a good practice, waste of time? There's a better way to do this. This is what you really need to focus on. Is there something that some of those young people might be missing, information that they can kind of receive and kind of get better at what they're trying to do?
I think I understand your question. I think volunteering your time, even while you're doing another job to get there, is the way to do it. Certainly join a troupe, get involved in amateur theater, get involved in amateur filmmaking, and the most important thing of all is be there when there's an opportunity.
Yes.
Because you never know when somebody doesn't turn up and they need somebody.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've seen that in life
all
the way through.
Without a doubt.
As have I.
Another thing that I've seen, in sports, and I'll ask if this is important, is relationships that you build. Being present gives you an opportunity to build relationships. How important is that in the field of entertainment? in film? Is it about who you know? Is that very important?
It's very important, but who you know is nothing if you don't have any skill.
Yes.
Same as in sports.
Right.
Yeah, you have to sell yourself. That's part of life in America.
Yeah. Tyler, I get real comfortable asking questions. It's my job. Is there a question that you wish an interviewer would ask so that you can kind of just get it all out? This is important. I need to tell you something.
If I transpose the interviewer to a student, this is what I wish a student would ask me, and ask me honestly. I always get asked, should I go to graduate school? Should I go to college for film? And that's the wrong question to ask. The right question is, why should I go to either of those institutions, whether it's grad school or film? And if the answer is to get a diploma, if that's meaningful to you, okay, but it's not really the right answer to that question. The right answer is, how am I going to develop my own skills? How am I going to create a network of people that I trust and will work with for the rest of my life potentially? That's why you go to grad school. That's why you go to college. It's the relationships with students, but also professors, teachers, mentors that you will find. It's not what's in the textbook. You can do that at home. You don't need to pay a lot of money for a degree to buy a textbook and spend any more money. You can do that on your own. You can do that on the internet. It's the relationships, and that's what people should be looking at, is what is the relationships I'm going to get by going to whatever that higher level education might be.
When we come back, Belinda Womack, Michelle Rayner, and Carla Bristol talk about the right path towards social justice.
I earn your trust, I earn your business.
Call Ierna's Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Ierna's and Bryant are doing whatever it takes to keep you and your wallet comfortable. CAC 1813676.
IEarnaAir.com.
Right when we launched Michael Clayton Live, the death of George Floyd sparked outrage across the nation, and we continue to see a demand for social justice. But as the time went on, what started as peaceful protests have been hijacked by destruction and violence. I asked our guests about their take on this subject and what were some solutions to the success of bringing our country together. Let's take a look. I want to get your perspective of what Black Lives Matter really means.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I think that you really have to think about, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter as well. Yes. And I think that's really the basis of it. And so, as Dr. King would say, if there's an injustice, in one place, there's an injustice everywhere. And so we are not free unless everyone is free. Yes. And that's really, to me, what the basis of the movement for Black Lives is. And I think that BLM is a rallying cry, but it's also one part of that movement. And so when you have the movement for Black Lives, you have people who are lawyers, you have people who are in politics, you have people who are in communications, you have people who are community organizers. So it's not just like one group or one section of folks, but it's bringing all folks from the table. And in fact, it's not just Black folks who are there, right? There are white folks who are sitting at this table as well, who are allies and who are able to share what, how they can move this movement forward. There's, straight folks, gay folks, it's from, folks from different religious walks of life. So, and that's what it is. It's all of us coming to the table and really having these discussions and coming with actionable solutions, not just, because I think we've all been town hall to death, right? Like we've all been town hall, especially all these Zoom town halls, we have been town hall to death. But I think people are like, what are the solutions? Yeah. What are you going to do? And is that really actionable? Is that really real life? Right. Can you practically apply it? I know when I go to church, I love hearing a good sermon. What is the practical application?
Yes, yes. How important is it when you have a platform, to say what needs to be said, maybe ruffle feathers, but it doesn't incite negativity on the other side or on your side?
I think you have a responsibility. I think it's a requirement, and it's the price you pay for the life you're living at this time in history. But what we do have to acknowledge is that someone may take a message from you that they may not take from that young man holding the protest sign. So that's part of the responsibility you have, to not just have that message be because whatever has happened to Michael Clayton may be different than what has happened to this other young man, but to acknowledge that what's happening to that young man and what is happening all across this country is real. And we do have to have a space to talk about it and then figure out how do we solve it together. Because you're not going to change the heart of another person, but you want to change the actions, the behaviors, and we want to start seeing more equity in policies, because policy is what's going to drive decisions. So, I mean, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of voting. Yes. So we have to vote. We have to get to know these candidates, and we cannot just simply take a pass on that.
And not just simply the big elections, the governors, mayors, and presidential elections.
Right.
We have to know who's running the Senate, who's running the House, and all of those things that typically aren't discussed in our communities.
Every person has the opportunity to elect approximately 130 some odd people. And most people don't know that fact, right? Wow. So all the way from the president all the way down. And you never take a look to see that you can impact all these judges' races. The sheriff is an elected official. The supervisor of election is an elected position. And most people, you're right, they focus on November.
I've walked in places and was told that the colored people had to go around the back. You know, I couldn't get a hot dog at the local 10 cents, the 5 and 10 cent store that they used to call it. But I remember the sit-ins that we did, and I remember standing up to the nonsense of racism. And we didn't have to burn down a building to do it. We didn't have to loot and tear up anything. Our young people are getting it right. The majority of them are. They're protesting, but they're doing it the right way so their voices can be heard. You cannot be heard if you're making a ruckus or tearing up stuff. And you cannot be heard if you choose to cuss your way through it. Right. You know, I even turn you off because, you know, what can you say? String a sentence along that's going to show that I want to be a part of this movement. And I tell you what, these kids have done it. These young people have done it, and I'm very proud of them. What hurts my heart is when I see some wanting to resort to violence, just stealing. They're opportunists. They're not protesters, they're opportunists. But these young people are starting to call those young people out, and some older people too. I've seen people my age coming out stores with boxes of stuff, you know? And I'm thinking, we need to make a better point than that. And the point is, we want to change. Things have changed dramatically since I was a young girl in the protests of Augusta, Georgia. But we have a long way to go. And to get there, we need people that are going to stand up and stand in for injustice and do it in a way that our voices can be heard. Don't ever give the opposition an opportunity to call you anything but brilliant.
Stay with us because we have a lot more great info to share from our summer show guests that you don't want to miss. Stay tuned.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
But you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a course online.
You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
COVID-19 has definitely given us a summer to remember. It may not have been the vacation you had planned, but our guests who talked about bikes, boating, and protection from the sun had more to share. Let's take a look. Randy, in the height of this COVID pandemic, we've seen a surge. You know, obviously people are wanting to be more out and ride bikes. From your perspective, how has bike riding kind of helped people mentally, you know, get through this this tragic time in our country?
I think that's a great question. I think people, you know, especially locally, but really obviously nationwide, worldwide, when the lockdown began and they were ordered to stay at home, people were allowed to exercise at least, and riding a bike gave them a sense of freedom, you know, and a lot of you probably remember, I remember that feeling of being a kid and riding a bike, and maybe that's why my kids are starting to ride more, but they get out on the bike and they're kind of allowed to make some of their own decisions. Yeah. And so on a bigger scale, I think that's what people really enjoyed about it, and you know, once they started riding, they got to feel like, hey, I'm a kid again. Everything else kind of stinks right now, but riding a bike is fun.
Yes, indeed. Always has been. Colin, you talked about the boating education, the captain who's teaching people how to operate the boat.
Yes.
That's great. But what about putting the boat on the trailer? What about driving the boat while it's on the trailer? That's a different aspect that buyers need to pay attention to as well, right?
Absolutely. We have a ton of trailer boats that we sell out of this location, and that's part of the delivery process. On delivery day, you learn how to dock the boat, drive the boat, navigation on and off the trailer, and the captain will guide the owner through the process the first couple of times. And it's really important that that's comfortable, because you know when you're at the boat ramp, there's 14 cars behind you waiting to get in line, and you feel the pressure of, I don't want to mess this up. That's one of those moments that can make or break your day of boating, and we make sure that our customers are ready to go so that they can look like a pro their first time
Oh man,
out.
so many times when I was young, my dad would give me the keys to do it because he knew that I would be embarrassing myself, and he would just let me hang, all right, and people honking their horns, but that was a great memory. My dad has had his boat for over 20 years, 25 years plus. Now, Doc, growing up in the black community, we hear that black people don't burn or can't be affected by the sun because of the melanin in our skin. And when you really look at the knowledge that's out there, that's just not true. I want you to speak to that misconception and really give us some facts based upon those things that people probably were misled.
Sure. So I agree that the more melanin you have in your skin, the lower your risk is of getting skin cancer. However, you're not immune to skin cancer. And the biggest problem is that people they're not watching, they're not looking, and if something does happen, it is more likely to have a delayed treatment, which means a poor outcome. So unfortunately, that's the truth about skin cancer in people of color, is that when they do finally present, it tends to be more advanced, and there's unfortunately a higher mortality.
Now, a lot of people have many different remedies if they actually do get burned by the sun. But from a doctor's perspective, what should one do if we suffer from a bad sunburn?
Correct, yeah. So unfortunately, once you have the burn, the damage is done. There's no way we can go and change that. But there are some things you can do just to be more comfortable. So we recommend cool compresses in the first few hours after the burn. You can apply fresh aloe or even over-the-counter hydrocortisone cream, and sometimes that will decrease the inflammation. If it's a really bad burn, you could take an anti-inflammatory such as Advil or ibuprofen, and of course just stay well hydrated and really moisturize the skin.
I hope you enjoyed this look back at our great guests and the types of bonus information you'll get on Michael Clayton Live Overtime on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Remember, be positive, be persistent, and stay prayed up. We hope that you'll join us next week for another great episode of Michael Clayton Live. See you next time.